Hello and welcome to the A&P. I am Alex Johansson and my co-host Patrick McCallum. Patrick,
Hello, everyone. How are you getting on?
we're having logical discussions about the state of the world. Let's get into it, brother. Hey, Patrick, how you doing, bud?
Not too bad at all, buddy. So, what have you for me today?
Well, I got Brendan O'Neill with Winston Marshall and a cat who is bullying me for treats.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, there's a normal day, so.
Yeah, well, we're trying to keep the cat out of the studio, but she will not be denied. She will not be denied. So either I get my carpet destroyed or I have a cute cat that looks at me like she's judging me, as all cats do. And
Yes, that's our job.
Yes. Yeah, well, with the resting bitch face and you owe me treats. I got it. So, all right. So we're going to kick this off. Winston Marshall has asked Mr. O'Neill about anti-Semitism or anti-Israel sentiments. So we'll go ahead and fire it up with his response to that question. And we'll push on through probably 5 or 6 of these talking points in here, pull them out and review them and see what's going on here.
Yeah, Ireland is awash with Israelophobia. I mean, it is in the grip of an Israelophobic lunacy. It's not an exaggeration to say that.
So that's the first time I've heard Israelophobia, right?
Yeah, it's a new word for me as well.
Interesting. Okay, well,
Yeah.
we'll see where this takes us.
Okay.
And that's why I called it the new religion. The state religion in Ireland for a very long time, of course, was Catholicism, Roman Catholicism, and it was a pretty widespread phenomenon. It informed everyone's lives. You would see statues of the Virgin Mary on the side of the road. People would often stop their cars and get out and say a prayer and then get back on to driving. Everyone went to mass every Sunday. Everyone went to Catholic school. The vast majority of Irish people went to Catholic school. So that was the state religion for a long time. It feels.
Did you go to Catholic school there?
I think we had no choice. That's the only school. All the schools are run by the Catholic Church, pretty much for the most part. From primary school all the way up through secondary school. That was pretty much the way it was right up to the mid-90s. That was just the way it was.
So there's truth in this statement. Okay.
Yeah.
To me now, in the post-Catholic era, there's this search for a new religious ethos or a new kind of moral glue that might hold sections of society together, give them a sense of purpose, give them a sense of mission. And currently that takes the form of Israelophobia. It is omnipresent in Ireland. Of course, you see it in Dublin, which is...
That's a very serious statement, by the way.
It is actually, because I think it's a very unfair statement, because from a person who actually lives in Ireland, yes, do we have pro-Palestinian protests all over the country? Yes. But I'm very much about people's right to protest, whatever their viewpoint is. But is it running across our entire society? For the most part, people that I know, just around the place, just from living in this country, most people don't really care. They hear on the news, but they're not really overly passionate about it.
But if the choice is between apathy and this new function, those who are apathetic aren't really going to stand it because they're just not going to care, right?
They're just not. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So if you have people before profit and other folks who have decided this is what we're going to stand on, and then we're going to force the people to also stand on this against what the constituency wants. I mean, that the reality of the situation might be it's only 5 to 10%, but if those are the 5 to 10% with the loudest voice, bro, you know, when it comes to the squeaky wheel, that's the one that gets the grease, right? Every time.
But I've seen, I go to Cork City quite a lot myself, and I see the protests every Saturday there. And there's 150, 200 people every Saturday?
Well, Dublin's been having massive, I've been seeing it, like massive protests. And their protests are about, hey, you're really disconnected from the people. We don't want immigration done this way. You know, the housing crisis is a huge problem. So,
yeah, if you compare the pro-Palestinian protests to the anti-immigrant protests and so on, there's a massive size difference.
Right, but the ones the legacy media hits, though, are the ones that are pro-Palestinian for the most part, right? Because that's part of the legacy narrative.
Yes, but for the most part, yeah, they are. They are. I think that's the way all across the Western world at the moment. Just not in Ireland.
So you have to go to the interweb nets. You got to go to Joe Rogan. You got to go to Winston Marshall. You got to go to Chris Williamson. Like, you have to go to all of these entities that are doing long form stuff that say, hey, here's the problem. Let's talk about it a little bit more than just 30 to 45-second flash in the pan stories, right? Especially with a 24-hour news cycle, because what they're going to do is they're going to pander to the echo chamber that gets them advertising dollars, right?
Yeah, that's just the nature of any business, really, to be honest.
Right.
Now, are we in the grips of this whole anti-Israel religion that he's sprouting here? I don't think so for the most part. Is there protests? Yeah, as I said, yes, but
well, Winston Marshall,
our government are not really. They're kind of pushing it, but not really as such. If you know what I mean.
But Winston Marshall must think that this guy's opinion has some weight, or he wouldn't be on. I don't think he just brought this guy on to be controversial.
Oh, that's fair enough. But later on, you'll see that his parents are originally from the west of Ireland, but he was born and raised in London. If you know what I mean.
Got it. Okay.
So yes, he is Irish, but if you know what I mean, might be slightly looking through a very unique lens.
Right, but having specific Irish heritage and being able to be objective from the outside might also be an advantage in the observation, as opposed to the frog in the soup telling you about the soup, right? Like he's outside and be like, hey, maybe he sees a thing that we don't, or he knows a thing that we don't, or has interacted with folks that we haven't interacted with.
But as I say, everyone looks at the same situation slightly differently, if you know what I mean.
Right, but you've said in the past yourself that there's a bit of an anti-Semitic nature to Ireland.
We've had there is very much that streak that runs through a lot of Western countries. We had our own past in the 1930s onwards, during David Valera's time, when he was very much in love with the German Reich, despite what people said.
Well, and he was the fellow that kicked boats of Jews back to Germany who were trying to get away, right?
Yeah. He just refused them entry, refused import.
Right. Well, that's kind of on the wrong side at this point. You know what I'm saying? A little bit.
A lot of Western countries. A lot of Western countries did it to their eternal shame. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty much. You pretty much just sent him back into the cauldron. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
I would say one of the wokest cities in Europe. But you also see it in the countryside. My parents are from the extreme west of Ireland, very, very rural, a lot of bogland, a lot of Connemara, a lot of windswept areas. Okay. Even there, in the middle of nowhere, you'll be driving along and you'll see a Palestine flag fluttering in some lonely field. You'll see that stop signs on the road have had the word genocide attached to them, so it says stop genocide. You switch on local Galway radio and you will hear people talking about going on hunger strike for Gaza, or the evils of Israel, or why the Irish government is not doing enough to turn Israel into a pariah state, which is what these people think it is.
So we have had multiple episodes now discussing the specific legal terms. And if people don't know it or what it means, then they're just not taking the time to read international law to find out.
I think it's very unique the way he's putting it there. I recognize, by the way, the picture he showed says "Stop Genocide." That was actually a Palestinian march that was actually in Dublin, not down in, as he's saying, all over the country.
Well, no, but if he's saying it's all over the country, he's showing, hey, this is what it looks like. But the thing is, it might be stock footage, but that's not O'Neill doing it. That's Winston Marshall's editing team doing it. Right, so he's saying the thing, but the images are being. I'm pretty sure that Mr. Marshall has an editing team, right? He's got good B-roll. His show looks amazing. His studio. I'm jealous. Like, don't think I'm not jealous, but we're down here at the bottom. Percentage. But either way, I shouldn't discount the voice. But the thing is that's Winston Marshall's editing team that's putting that up. That's not Mr. O'Neill doing it, right? Okay.
What I'm saying here is, but for the rest of his points, you drive through the countryside and see the odd Palestinian flag here and there. For the most part, but it's kind of like, I'm old enough to remember seeing Ukrainian flags sprouted all over the place during the start of that war. I'm old enough to remember Syrian flags here.
2014 Donbass, Crimea, or are you talking the current
I'm talking the recent Russian invasion.
So 3 years ago, right? But the deal with this is that.
But the funny thing is, the point I'm trying to make is, the same people who are waving the Ukrainian flag out their windows have swapped that over now for a Palestinian flag. They're the kind of people who will jump on the nearest cause.
Got it. So it's victim mentality, and I'm going to protect other people that don't particularly need or want my protection.
We've had a very long history in Ireland of supporting the little guy against the big guy. That's just who we are. You know what I mean?
That doesn't make sense, because Israel's the smallest guy, or one of the smallest guys in all the Middle East.
Yeah,
right? And they're the ones that got attacked. on the 7th of October. Why wouldn't you?
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I understand what you're saying, but I'm just I'm trying to give a bit of context of where we're coming from in Ireland as well.
got it.
In a lot of ways.
Right. So
Yeah.
there's a billion folks that really don't want a few million folks to continue to exist. So the little guy in the picture here is Israel, right?
Yeah, but
So,
what they're looking at specifically is Israel versus Gaza. You know what I mean?
right, but Gaza doesn't act in a vacuum. They act because they're part of a greater organization.
But we've seen videos in the past that people usually don't think outside their own echo chambers. If you understand what I mean.
Right, for sure.
It's suffocating. It's you can almost taste the hatred on your tongue when you walk through these towns and cities. I find it incredibly depressing that the Irish establishment in particular, but also significant numbers of Irish people, now devote themselves to this kind of ritualistic hatred for one country, the Jewish nation.
Can we just stop on the post-Catholic era? What do you? It's still a Catholic country. It's still a Christian country, isn't it?
Yes, it's still a Catholic country. Constitutionally, it's a Catholic country. It's in the Constitution. We're a Catholic country. But it's been in a post-Catholic moment for some time. There's been huge scandals in the Catholic Church over the past 20 or 30 years. Numbers of people going to Mass is dwindling. People have far less respect for the priests and the nuns than they had in the past. A massive crisis of legitimacy for the Catholic Church in Ireland, to such an extent that it just does not have the social or moral clout that it used to enjoy.
Right, their moral currency was roughly bankrupted over the last 20 or 30 years. So,
and even though I'm a Protestant Catholic myself, they deserve why they got their power removed from them. Because at the moment, there's many headlines over here where they're digging up a mass grave of babies at the moment from a past religious order of nuns. They estimate about between 700 to 800 children were buried in this kind of slurry tank, is the only word I could describe it as. And that's just one of many mass graves of children.
make sure you link that story. Yeah, link that story. We will absolutely link that story. Just make sure it happens, because it's important that if we cite something like that, we absolutely bring the receipts. I don't ever want there to be a point where
this is it. But the only reason why this came to light was because of one woman searching for it. But it's absolutely disgusting the way a lot of these religious orders carried on for the last decades in my country.
Yeah, breaks my
heart. Not just in my country, but all over different countries.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Like he'll touch upon the Madeleine laundries and so on. It's just unbelievable. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Unbelievable.
In the United States, on the East Coast, they would have children literally get on trains, and then they would head west, and they'd just dump the kids off the train somewhere out west. Because they were moving into the city, and then they were still having children, like they were living on the farm. And then once you get to kid 5, kid 6, kid 7, you know, and somebody's like, "Hey, I'll relieve you. Here's a whatever." And then it's one of the strangest things about American culture that even happened. We literally dump kids off somewhere in the West, and like, "Hey, you're like X amount of years old. Like, good luck, you." No. Yeah, it's like weird. Children seem to take it on the chin every time, dude.
Yeah, it's, as I say, they didn't act in good faith anywhere in the world they went to for a long time.
Right. All right, here we go.
This used to be the most important institution in Ireland. Priests would tell people off on Sundays for how they were living. Priests would suggest to them how they might vote in an election. Priests would govern almost every aspect of their lives. My parents tell me those stories, how dominant the priests were, how dominant the nuns were. They were the moral tyrants in some ways of this small new republic that was only born in 1916, 1922, around that time. And there's a real crisis of Catholicism. It's waning massively. It doesn't have that power anymore. And that's been going on for really 20 or 30 years.
And you think that tracks back to the paedophile scandals?
The paedophile scandal was more an expression of it. There's just that kind of general corrosion of Catholic authority as Ireland became more socially liberal.
So, that whole scandal definitely bankrupted their
Like,
their moral currency.
there,
Right.
as I said, there was many reports have been done in my country. Like the pedophile scandal, as he just brushed over there, was massive. It was across the boards for nearly 100 years.
Yeah,
Ever
children.
since long before the foundation of our free state.
Yeah, children do not have
And
agency. You do not do that
no,
to the children. That is unacceptable
like,
behavior.
and by the way, the Catholic Church was backed up and protected by the full weight of the Irish state at the time.
Oh, wow, double whammy.
Yeah.
Not cool.
Yeah.
Oh.
So there was a lot of it brushed under the carpet. There was a lot of many investigations.
Right.
And I think it's unfair to say that that was the beginning of the fall of our moral compass. I would say it was Ireland now is struggling to find its identity in the world.
Right.
If you know what I mean. At the moment, he is right there, but
well, the interesting thing is that the country of Ireland has less people in it than does New York City and its suburbs, right? So, I mean, it's an important place, but you guys are going to have to get your culture back. You guys are going to have to get yourself together, right? So you can be a force for good.
I think, yes, we want our Irish culture back. But
yeah.
Are we ever going to welcome back the Catholic Church the way it was years ago? No, that will never happen.
Right, but with all the immigration you have, your culture is getting siphoned off, right? Like, so the UK is running into the same problem in London. London is 15 to 20% like not native type folks, and there's like a wall around it, right? There's like the wall around the central portion, and like it is horrifically expensive, not worth your time. The crime is rampant, right? And Dublin's following the same script, like they're doing the same damn things, right?
Yeah, a lot of Western countries a lot of major Western country cities are falling into the same.
Yeah, Paris is the same way. Yeah, it's the same. It's crazy. Yeah. It's insane. Berlin, yeah, it's disgusting.
All right. Yeah, Berlin, Barcelona, Paris, London.
Oh, and we were talking about the Spain thing the other day. They're having all kinds of crazy stuff go on. So
there's been a couple of riots in Spain, right?
So you're a history buff.
Is it as bad? Well, how can I put it nicely? Yes, the riots are bad, but they're being really quickly put under control by the Spanish. By the way, Spanish police and army, not very subtle. By the way, they're not they're not the conversation type. Yeah, they're not the type of conversation soldiers you really want to deal with. They put it down real quick in a lot of places.
A history buff, and we'll go back to when we play a couple of games, CK3. Right. So what is the name of the area that was inhabited by Muslims in southern Spain and Portugal? Right. There was a name for that place. Do you remember what it was?
Yes. It has changed. Well, during it was part of the Caliphate at the time. That was a kind of overall broadening name from, say, the late 9th century up to the 11th century, that kind of way.
Right.
When I say Caliphate now, that was just the overall broad term of multiple tribes under one banner.
Mm-hmm.
But as they push into, as you know, when they push into middle of Europe, they got soundly defeated by a coalition of Catholic powers at the time, kind of realizing if we don't stand together, we're absolutely going to get wiped out.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're going to go the same way as what happened in North Africa. And they came together and pushed them back over the Spanish border, and then they eventually split into multiple tribes. Eventually, the Catholics in Spain rose up over a couple of centuries and pushed them back into northern Spain as such.
Right.
But that was with the help of a couple of tribes working with. Yeah, but that was also with the help of a couple of Muslim tribes who sided with the Catholics at the time, going, yeah, we know where the tide is turning, so we're going to ally with these guys. So, that's just the way it is. All through history, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do an episode on that. All right, let's get back to Mr. O'Neill.
Yeah.
More open to the outside world. Younger people were less willing to take instruction from priests or nuns. You know, there was the vote to decriminalize divorce in the 1990s, the vote to decriminalize homosexuality, or homosexuality was decriminalized. And Ireland became more socially liberal. and the rule of the Catholics waned, and the crises didn't help. The Magdalene laundries, where the nuns would imprison young women whose crime was to have given birth out of wedlock, or, you know, the paedophile scandals, all of those things contributed to a sense that this was a knackered institution that had no right to tell people how to live. And that created a massive vacuum in Ireland because Catholicism was its moral anchor. Without it, Ireland was a pretty listless place. It didn't know what it was for, what it believed in, what its purpose was. And since then, it's been looking around, I think, as a nation, particularly in Dublin, amongst the influential classes. They've been looking around for a Catholicism replacement, some ideology around which they might cohere themselves. They found it in their devotion to the European Union. They found it in their devotion to wokeness. Ireland is an insanely woke country. And now, more recently, since 7th of October, they found it in this shared frothing hatred for the Jewish state. And I think that's become the Jewish state.
So how woke is Ireland, would you say?
Do we have... Yeah, it's a pretty liberal country in a lot of ways. Probably far more liberal than a lot of other countries in the Middle East, and I think that's where a culture clash is really happening. We are
it's far more liberal
country.
than every Islamic country, but what about in comparison to the rest of Europe? Right.
We're probably on the same page as most Western countries. Like, we have same-sex marriage, we have divorce rights, we have abortion rights, and so on. Now, are we insanely liberal? We are and we aren't, if you know what I mean.
Right, but again, that's a squeaky wheel. It's a squeaky wheel problem. The really, really loud ones are going to get legislative things out of Dáil that are going to cause issues, right?
Well, I don't think our liberal laws are causing issues. No.
You don't think that expanding the Overton window to make things acceptable that should probably be a violation of social mores? You don't think that that's going to cause a breakdown in society and then create woke situations where they feel they feel a way it's acceptable?
I think it's very unfair to blame the entire downfall of the West, say, on LGBT, for instance, or anything like that.
No, right. Well, I understand that. What I'm talking about is overall functions. Like, we have a ton of entitled children, right? And I think it has to do with ease of living, right? So hard times create hard men.
Yes.
Hard men create easy times, and in those easy times, we get easy men that have to then become hard, right? So, but in that whole process after World War II, it's been a constant state of functional safety for the Western worlds, or for the Western countries, right? So we've ended up, along with technology, so it's not an LGBT thing, it is a technology, softness, and a lot of other things that have extended the Overton window, and it has created a ton of luxury beliefs, right? A ton of luxury beliefs, right?
I would call them naive beliefs,
naive luxury, stuff like that. We had an episode with that nice Irish girl who hadn't read a history book and didn't know what the hell she was talking about. Not that she represents Ireland, but she's a doctoral student in Ireland who cannot critically think outside the box when they're given information. They're like, this is hard fact. And she says, I don't accept hard fact. You're like, then that means you can't appropriately treat this concept or problem. You just can't.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think the problem is when people say woke this and woke that. I think it depends on what your point of view of woke is. Do we have, as I always said, do we have liberal laws? Yes. Are we 100% liberal country? Outside of major cities, no.
Right. So if you watch James Lindsay's new discourses, he discusses the exactness of what woke is. I think we might need to go over a little bit of that so that term for us is nailed down. So when we use it, it's the same term for both of us, right?
Yes, but what I'm trying to say is, I think that when Americans are that kind, and yourself talk about wokeness, you're usually worried about all the new liberal laws that are coming in. Where in Ireland, when we talk, we don't really use the word wokeness as such, if you know what I mean.
Right. I'm more worried about social Marxism, honestly. That's the direction I have an issue with it. And it's more from the DEI perspective, because equality and equity are violently different. Right? Giving everybody the same chance to get access to resources to get things done is different than making everybody look the same at the end of the cycle, because people are different people. I am different from you. You are different from, you know, your neighbor, right? You're different from the nun down the street, different from the, you know, Irish English teacher at the schoolhouse and the stay-at-home mom and like we're all different, so we all process different. But if you say at the end of the trip everybody's the same, they're not, because they're all different to start with, so they're all going to be different.
You have to also remember, I think we have a different educational system as well from the United States, where it's very much point-based. You get so many points and you're leaving certain, then you get into your third level.
Right.
Where it's more fair across the board.
Oh, I believe
know people give
it
about the point system, but we're not changing anytime soon.
Right, but we also have seen in Ireland where those who are of Irish descent are getting last pass at getting into schools. Right.
Oh, you're talking about the primary school problem has been brewing for a long, long time.
And adding,
now it's finally come to a head because of all the extra population that has arrived in Ireland.
All the extra bodies. You don't have the teachers. You don't have the space. Your schools need to be rebuilt. Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
But the problem is that's also down to our government. They haven't invested in most of primary schools in the last 20 years. If some of them haven't been invested, even touched since the 90s, expanded or otherwise. But these towns and cities have ballooned out.
Right.
There's been very little investment in infrastructure, if you know what I mean. We have these grand state projects like the Children's Hospital costing us how many billions.
Right.
But there's still not enough school places for anyone in our country at the moment.
That doesn't feel like fraud or anything. Nah.
Oh God, no. The politicians taking a few bribes? God, that would never happen.
No graft there. All right, here we go.
It has almost become like a substitute devil. You know, you used to pray to keep the devil out of your life, and now Israel plays that role for many people in Ireland. It's really worrying.
So it's a sort of anti-Israel, or Israelophobia, as you call it, is a pseudo-religion, quasi-religion, a bit like the climate religion or wokeism or the trans ideology that has taken the place in a society which no longer believes in God, maybe.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's the new woke face, right? It looks like the new woke thing's face, right? It was climate change.
Yeah, so it's as I keep saying, it's the latest cause for people who always follow causes.
Right.
That's just it's just the latest cause.
It's like when you called it.
If you live in this country long enough, you see the same heads at every protest.
You called it on the nose. You're like, I bet she's a doctoral student, or and like she was like, I'm getting my doctorate. You're like, I knew it.
No. At the moment, I'm as I say, I'm old enough to remember the Syrian crisis, and everyone has Syrian flags up and all the usual.
Right.
And I remember the Ukrainian flags everywhere, and now it's the Palestinian flags. Next year it'll be somebody else's flag. It's always the same heads.
Right, except it seems that the end of the line for all of these woke things seems to be Israel. Right. Once the canary in the coal mine. Yeah,
at the moment.
Well, it seems like in most of the world, once you hit that one, like you have to come back like full good, or you really descend into the badness. Right.
Yeah, I'm kind of more cynical when it comes to these protests, because, as I said, I've seen the same heads at every different protest all over the years, and you're kind of going, what's their protest this time about?
Yeah.
If you know what I mean?
Yeah, what are you whining about? What are you whinging about now, right?
Yeah, so you're kind of going, don't we have a bigger problem in our country at the moment?
You should probably just crack on, get yourself a pint of Guinness and shut the heck up, right?
Like, Jordan Peterson has a great line. Go to your own bedroom before you lecture the world.
Yeah, make your bed, dummy.
Let's get our house in order first before we start lecturing the world.
Let's figure out what our Overton window looks like, what's acceptable behavior, what violates social mores, and what makes us better as a civilization, as opposed to going out and screaming things. Civil discourse is always better. When you have a marketplace of ideas that we can fairly and freely discuss, that's what makes this a better thing. Not, I said a thing, and because I believe it, it's true. Well, then that means I should be able to say the opposite thing, and because I believe it, it's true. But then it's mutually exclusive, and then it's whoever can scream louder. And that seems to be what this woke thing is doing, at least as far as on the streets with people screaming and yelling, when it's not in relation to DEI, right?
The funny thing is, when you look at a lot of these protests, and I've seen a lot of them on TV from around the world, a lot of these protests, once you pan out the camera, it's only a couple of hundred people.
Well, and
It's
then
only when you.
and a
The
lot of
problem with
people
an
who are
awful
there,
lot
a lot
of
of people who are
media
there
is
don't even know what the hell they're doing. Like
yes,
the interviewers go up and go, "What are you here for?" "From the river to the sea." "All right, bud. Which river? Which sea?" "Well, from the river
yeah,
to." Oh, come on, right?
yeah.
I cut across
It's
you.
yeah, it is very very interesting to see some of the young people who don't really know the history of the region whatsoever.
Well, they don't even know who William of Orange is, so they're already behind the curveball.
Which we all studied when I was in school, but I don't know what is going on with the young people these days. A lot of them don't seem to like studying history for whatever reason.
Here's
And I
a
think,
funny one that I read and I was looking up. So when we went to school, you had to have books, right?
yeah,
And there's a process in reading a book where you will retain more information because after every 2 pages, you have to turn the page, right? So
yeah,
there's a mechanical process that breaks up the reading thing. When you're reading things online, you're literally just reading walls of text. It's just a giant
yes,
wall. There's no break in between. And
yeah,
there's also AI tools and lots of other tools that do a lot of the analytics for you.
mm,
So all you have to do is get enough buzzwords and prop it up to literally have AI do your work at this point, right? AI
yeah.
should
And I
enhance
think
the ability you already have. And when we put these kids on computers at age 6 and 7 with pads in school, and we're doing children a disservice, right? There's got to be a better
well,
way.
nearly 99.9% of most kids going to school in Ireland, primary or secondary, is all books they use. There is programs, all right, and say in some of the smaller schools where they have an option while they're trying to translate over to carrying pads
Right.
and their books and homework in them. Which, as a person who had to drag a school bag nearly twice my weight to school every single day because we don't have
Oh,
lockers.
come on. Twice your
No,
weight.
by the way, we don't have lockers in our schools. Very few schools in Ireland actually have lockers. Some secondary schools, but mostly whatever books you want to bring with you, you're carrying to and from school every day.
Uphill, both ways, through the snow.
Yeah,
fighting off bears and snakes with loose leaf
no, but
notebooks
what I'm saying
and
is,
number 2 Ticonderoga.
no,
Come on, get out of here
as
with
I
that.
said, yeah, but as I'm saying, I've seen Smallies dragging this bloody suitcase full of books after them, still to this day going to school, and I'm kind of going, there's surely a better way,
right?
Absolutely a better way.
Instead of making children suffer. I get it. All right, let's get back to it.
That's kind of part of the analysis.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the Israelophobia has the downsides of religion and none of the upsides. So it has the downsides of that desire to order things in a very simplistic way. So it has the bad guys, the devilish guys, who are the Israelis, who are looked upon as an alien people, not only by Irish influencers, but in Britain and across Europe. Israelis are seen as being in the grip of a genocidal mania, as being a uniquely barbarous and racist people. I mean, the neo-colonial contempt for the people of Israel, I find absolutely disgraceful and absurd, and you hear it all the time. They're talked about as an morally inferior species in the same way that Africans might have been during the era of Victorian colonialism. They're looked upon as a uniquely barbarous, savage people. You hear that, you see that in The Guardian. You see that on X every single day. You see it in these marches against Israel that take place all the time. And you see it in Ireland. So they've got their new satanic force that they must conquer and
So anti-Semitism is pretty heavy, but I don't know. This seems to be a bit over speculation, maybe?
As a person who's living in the country, are there a lot of people anti-Israel at the moment? Yes, but but these are the same people who are anti-Russian during the initial invasion of the Ukraine.
Right. So does this just sound like hyperbole? I mean, is that?
I think at the moment there's a vicious hatred. Is there a vicious hatred in Ireland for Israel? In certain quarters, yes. Is it going across our entire population?
Right,
not really as such.
How much power do the ones who are in that quarter have? See, I think
Not really. They're
that's
usually the same people who vote for the people before profit or kind of those type of parties.
with
And we
their
can see
one
how many
TD.
the
Does
one TD
does
or
people before
a
power
couple
have
of
anybody?
independents.
Does people before power have people before profit have anybody in the Shannon, or are they just in the Dáil and
I
local
think they
council?
have, if I remember rightly, they have one lady in the Shannon as well.
Okay.
But they don't. But the Shannon is more of a discussion of law as such.
Right.
But
checking the work of the Dáil. They're
yeah, pretty much, and
checking the
sometimes
homework.
checking the homework just to make sure it balances up.
Right.
As
Pull
I
out
said.
the red pen, make sure it doesn't violate the Constitution.
Yeah, make
send
sure
it back with
that
adjustments.
the DAW is not going completely off the rails.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
they would never go completely off the rails from the dole, even though they're
especially
making
especially around budget time. They kind
right.
of do,
Yeah, especially with all those landlords, with all those
Yeah.
landlords in your Dáil that are making an insane amount of money off people living in their. That's weird, right? Psh, strange.
Well,
That's not suspect.
welcome to politicians being, fell on their nest.
Crooked like a snake with a broke back. Crooked like a snake with a broke back. Here we go.
Extinguished from the earth.
Go ahead.
Right, to get back to his point there, I think a lot of people who are at these protests do not like Israel. This is but online, it is nasty. It is a lot of anti-Semitism. But there was a lot of the same people who were very anti-Russian. Only a year and a bit, 2 years ago?
Oh, now they've forgotten all about it. Now it's okay. Their drone war is in, and now we got a new bad guy. Let's go ahead and get in a pen on this new bad. Okay. All right, let's get back to Mr. O'Neill. See what he's got to say.
The Jewish nation, which they want to get rid of from the river to the sea. And they've got their good guys as well, the Palestinians, who they see as the perennial victims, responsible for nothing. They infantilize them. It's the kind of double bigotry of Israelophobia, where they demonize Israel, which I think is a form of bigotry, and they
This is where, like Natasha Hausdorff was talking about the blood libel, right? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like you're putting your bad stuff on Israel, saying Israel's doing the bad stuff, and then having a giant PR campaign, right? That says that they're the bad guys, right? So
I think the unfortunate thing with the nature of any war is the first thing that always dies is truth on both sides.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's actually, I don't, by the way, is a very famous quote. I can't think of the person who exactly said it at the time, but I'm just quoting somebody else who's really well spoken. But I will say one thing: at the end of the day, there is no saints or sinners in a war. People should study history more and look at every conflict in the history of mankind. War is not pretty.
No.
It never has been and never will be. Nope. There's no such thing as a bloodless war. Neither side. And I think people
you've never been married,
on the West,
yeah. I'm kidding.
As I said, I've been there and war the teacher a couple of times, so trust me, it's not 100% down the aisle, but yeah. Anyway, let's get back to what I was saying is young people should really study history more. They should really look at conflicts more. They should really see that there's no innocence in conflict in either side, ever, in any war. Both sides want to win by any means necessary. And that's just the nature of war.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Palestinians and Arabs, treat them as the children of the earth who require us to parent them and save them and look after them. That kind of double bigotry is so pronounced in influential circles in Ireland. And people do now cohere themselves and their entire sense of personality around that worldview.
Yeah, that's what they used to call the bigotry of low expectations. For what you're describing, their attitude towards Palestinians.
The bigotry of low expectations. We should probably go over something about that, but that is something that needs to be unpackaged and treated. We don't have the time for it here, but yeah, we'll get to it eventually.
Right.
What you're describing, their attitude towards Palestinians. Just another pit stop is that you say Ireland is the most woke country in the world. How so?
I love Ireland, but it's really annoying sometimes.
You are Irish. You consider yourself Irish.
Yeah.
Were you born? Your parents
I was born in London.
London.
My parents are Irish. They migrated to London in 1970 because they needed to work, and lots of Irish people came to the UK to work. That's where they had their children. That's where me and my brothers were all born.
And let's take a quick look at how the media is reporting on Keir Starmer's new crack.
Right, there we go. No, what he is saying there about Ireland being one of the wokest countries. It is, as I say, we're a pretty liberal country up here. You know what I mean?
Right. All right, that concludes ARC 1 for Mr. Marshall and Mr. O'Neill.
Yeah, I think it was pretty good. Very enlightening, actually. Really interesting point of view. Really, really interesting guy.
Well, something
really
we
good.
can definitely dig into, right? Something we can discuss. So
yeah, definitely. Well, as I said, we'll be back for part 2, looking another few sections of this are lined up for us to review and critique, as they say.
excellent. So for Patrick McCallum, I am Alex Johanssons. We are the A&P gents. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, do the things, help us beat the algorithm. We are out.